Well, we're about 3 months away from the start of the 2024 college football season. And, the schedules have been out for a while. A lot of these game times are starting to get announced. And today, the good people over at ESPN let us know that for week one of the college football season, the good people over at College Gameday are going to be headed to Texas A&M for the Notre Dame against Texas A&M game in week one. So the Game Day crowd will pack up their buses and head out to College Station. Headlined, of course, this year by Nick Saban, who's joining the College Game Day crew. Kirk Herbstreit will be there again, per usual. But is this the right decision for College Game Day to pick this game in week one? I don't really think there's ever a right or wrong decision, really, when it comes to picking where College Game Day goes to. They pick a game, they go there. They talk about all of the different games on College Game Day, but College Game Day is a part of College Football Saturday for a lot of us who have been watching college football for a long time. Debuted way back in 1987. They haven't missed a week since, and no signs of slowing down. Now it's the most watched college football pregame show on the planet for a reason. But this is an interesting choice to me. I'm going to pull the schedule up in a second for week one, and we'll go through it. And I'm just curious what y'all think about some of these other games compared to the Notre Dame Texas A&M game, and whether or not you think Game Day could have or should have picked a different location for week one. But let's talk about Notre Dame and Texas A&M for a second. Two disappointing teams, I would call it. One more than another, but Texas A&M's basically been a disaster since the minute they joined the SEC, and really even before that. They've had a couple of decent years in the SEC. They came in 2012. They had one really good year under Johnny Manziel. They had another good year in 2020. They didn't make the conference championship game in either of those years. They've never made the conference championship game in the SEC, but outside of those 2 years, they've kind of been bad. I mean, the joke for a while was that they just go 8-4 every year. Now 8-4 would be a great season. They really struggled. They get rid of Jimbo Fisher, and that whole staff paid him a king's ransom not to work. He's gone. Brand new coaching staff there, led by Mike Elko, who I like. What he did at Duke was unbelievable. He's got ties to Texas A&M. He was a defensive coordinator there before, and I like the hire. I think he can move Texas A&M in the right direction. How quickly can that happen? Well, they're trying to make it happen real quickly. They're one of the most active teams in the portal this year, but they lost a lot in the portal too. A lot of things led to the firing of Jimbo Fisher, but one of the biggest sort of catalysts is, all these great recruiting classes and then no results on the field. So Mike Elko gets there. There's talent there. Now, maybe it's not spread evenly across the board, and there's obvious talent gaps in certain areas on that team, but there's talent there. But a lot of it has hit the portal. He's brought a lot of new talent in. It's going to be curious to see sort of the direction he takes Texas A&M over the next few years, and they don't have a warm-up period starting out week one here at home against Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame's been disappointing in a different sense. They haven't had any problems in the regular season, generally speaking, for about the last 15 years or so. They win an average of 10 games every regular season in their sleep, going all the way back to the beginning of the Brian Kelly era in the early 2010s. They've made BCS games. They've made playoffs. They've made New Year's Six games. They've never won any of them. That's been Notre Dame's issue. They haven't had really... They've won some big games in the regular season. I mean, they've lost some notable big games too. Came up short against Ohio State last year, but they've had some decent wins in the regular season. They've had some really good records in the regular season. All of Notre Dame's sort of shortcomings have come after the regular season ends. In 2020, they were actually a full-fledged member of the ACC. They make the ACC title game, they get blown out. They get put in a playoff, they get blown out. They make a New Year's Six game, they get blown out. But regular season, they've actually done pretty well. And Marcus Freeman is in his third year there. So starting to really put his stamp on the program now. I do think Notre Dame has improved talent-wise at the skill positions outside the tackles, wide receivers, corners, secondaries, things like that. They always have a pretty good line of scrimmage, tight ends, running backs. Quarterback, they've gone to the portal again, second year in a row. Of course, they went and got Sam Hartman last year. Started off great, started off really hot. Sort of faded a little down the stretch, at least in terms of his overall numbers. They go out this year, they get Riley Leonard. Again, a guy I really liked last year at Duke, sort of a hero of week 1 last year. Everybody remembers that Clemson Duke game from week 1 last year where Riley Leonard just made play after play after play after play to keep Clemson's defense on the field, eventually winning that game easily over Clemson. Now, he gets hurt last year, misses the last basically back half of the season, and was unable to participate during the spring for Notre Dame, at least in the spring game. I'm not sure how much he practiced, if at all. I'm sure he got no contact at all. So you got a brand new quarterback into a brand new school and a brand new system for him, and he's been unable to go mostly during the spring. So somewhat of a question mark there at the quarterback position for Notre Dame. Not a question mark in terms of what you would get from Riley Leonard if he's healthy, but the question mark is, will he be healthy? How fast can he pick up the offense? That kind of thing. How does he fit in at Notre Dame versus where he was at Duke? So some questions there. So you got some questions for both teams, but I look at these two teams, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and the line is already out for this game. Now, what do you think the line is for this game? I know everybody hates Notre Dame and they don't play nobody. I believe me, I hear y'all typing out or see y'all typing out all the time, and everybody, Texas A&M's not any good, blah, blah, blah. But just be honest with yourself. Based on what you've seen over the last few years, what you know about Texas A&M and Notre Dame, what you know about the coaching staffs, Texas A&M, brand new coaching staff, Notre Dame, third-year staff. Texas A&M's got Notre Dame's going to have a more established quarterback. Now, not at Notre Dame, but they're getting an experienced guy in Riley Leonard. Just who do you think the better team is? Who do you think will win the game? Who should be favored? Get an idea of that in your mind, and then look at this. Notre Dame is a 1-point underdog on the road at Texas A&M. Now, I get it. It's a road game, week 1. The crowd will be insane, but isn't the crowd insane at every Texas A&M game? And they don't win very many of them, at home or on the road. I don't understand this pick at all. Now, admittedly, I got hammered when I put my top 10 out. I have Notre Dame pretty high in my top 10, higher than most people do. And I got hammered for that, and I could be proven to be wrong. Maybe they go down there and get blown out by Texas A&M. I don't know. But based on my expectations and what I think I'm going to see from these two teams, especially early in the year, this blows my mind that Notre Dame is actually an underdog on the road against Texas A&M. And again, that's not a shot at Texas A&M or Mike Elko or any of their players. I love Mike Elko, and I think he's going to be a vast improvement over what they had with Jimbo Fisher. And I like the direction of Texas A&M under Mike Elko. But you're telling me with that roster, the turnover that they had, the uncertainty, the question marks, all of that, brand new coaching staff, every player on that team learning a brand new scheme, brand new playbook, all of that is going to beat a veteran Notre Dame team at home with a third-year coaching staff. I'm going to tell you this right now. If Notre Dame loses this game, they're not getting anywhere near the playoffs, nor should they. I don't know if there's any such thing as a must-win game in week 1 of college football anymore in the era of a 12-team playoff. But Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference, so they lose out on an opportunity to get in that way by winning a conference and earning a bye or whatever. They rely on a good regular season record and some good regular season wins. And look, again, I'm not here to shit on Texas A&M, but where do you really think they fall within the pecking order of the SEC? If you're being honest, even Texas A&M fans, I would ask you, 6th, 7th, 8th at best. At best. I mean, you're talking Georgia, Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, off the top of my head, all ranked miles higher than Texas A&M, no matter where you look. And you can look at the odds to win the SEC, and they would back all that up. In fact, maybe I'll pull the odds up in a second. This blows my mind that Notre Dame is a 1-point underdog on the road. And again, I'm no Notre Dame fan. Ask the Notre Dame fans that watch this channel. They disagree with almost everything I say about Notre Dame. I'm not some sort of sunshine pumper when it comes to Notre Dame, generally. I just tell it like I see it. And the way I see it, Notre Dame is a way better team that is further down the line, a lot further down the line right now than Texas A&M is. I can't believe this is a 1-point game. And we're getting kind of away from the college game day thing. We'll bring it back to that in a second when I pull up the complete schedule of games and we try to figure out, is this really the game they should be going to? I'm not saying Texas A&M can't win this game. Of course they can. I've been watching college football a long time. I see weird things happen every single week during the season in the world of college football. There's no such thing as a guaranteed win. I get that. But my mind is absolutely blown that Notre Dame is an underdog on the road at Texas A&M in week 1. I just can't believe. I'm curious what you all think about this game. Look at this. Miami favored by only 2 over lowly Florida. Unbelievable. Okay, so, well, I tell you what, while I have that site pulled up and we're talking about Texas A&M in particular, here's my point about Notre Dame if they can't beat Texas A&M. So these are the current odds. They're updated in real time. This is from DraftKings, but you can look these up anywhere. But these are the odds to win the SEC or every conference. But we're going to look at the SEC here. You got Georgia with the best odds at plus 190, followed up by Texas, Ole Miss, Bama, LSU, Tennessee, Missouri, and then Texas A&M. Texas A&M's got the 8th best odds to win the SEC. Now, that doesn't mean that Texas A&M is guaranteed to finish 8th in the SEC and that they're the 8th best team in the SEC and that odds equals what happens on the field. I know that, and I'm not suggesting that. But what I am suggesting is that the odds are the odds, no matter what you're talking about, right? And according to the people that make the odds, there are 7 teams that are more likely to win the SEC than Texas A&M. But those same people think that Texas A&M should be a 1-point favorite against Notre Dame. So my point isn't that this means Texas A&M is going to win the game and this means that Texas A&M is the 8th best team in the SEC. That's not my point. I hope that's not what you're getting from what I'm saying. They play these games for a reason. The odds are just a guideline. They're just one data point to look at when you're trying to break down teams or games, and they're for gambling idiots like me. But the same people that are telling you that Texas A&M is a point better than Notre Dame are also telling you that Texas A&M is the 8th best team in the SEC. Now, that's clearly their opinion, right? These are betting numbers. This is people who are willing to put their money where their mouth is. Not people who watch a YouTube video and then run to the comments section and drool all over their wireless keyboard that everybody else is wrong and they're right. And that. No, these numbers come from people who are actually willing to put their money where their mouth is. People are actively betting on this, and the line fluctuates up and down accordingly. People who are willing to put their money where their mouth is are telling you that they think Texas A&M's a point better than Notre Dame, and they think Texas A&M's the 8th best team in the SEC. So you tell me, if Notre Dame loses this game, how do they get into the playoffs? At best, they're going to be 11-1 with a loss to a 4 or 5 loss SEC team. Notre Dame better. I'm not saying Notre Dame's got to go undefeated to get in, but this can't be the game they lose. I don't think this can be the game they lose, or I don't think they'll get in. Huge game for Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame probably wins this game. Again, I'm higher on Notre Dame than the average idiot, and this line makes no sense to me. I actually agree. I actually kind of agree with this. This looks about right to me. In fact, you could argue moving Oklahoma even ahead of Texas A&M if things work out at quarterback for them. You know, they're another team that's in year 3 of a coaching staff, whereas Texas A&M is in year 1 of a do-over, of they're starting over from scratch. You could argue 8th is generous for Texas, so I actually kind of agree with where they have A&M here. I don't understand. I don't understand this here. I don't understand that. I would gladly right now take Notre Dame +1 in this game. If anybody think Texas A&M winning this game, hit me up. Hit me up on Twitter or wherever you can find me. I'll bet anybody right now Notre Dame goes down there and wins this game. That's wild to me. Maybe I should have done a video just on the fact that why the hell is Texas A&M favored against Notre Dame? I don't know. I'm sure I'll get hammered in the comment section, but that's just my opinion. All right, now let's get back to the college game day point of the video. I use the word point loosely. Most of my videos, as you're well aware, don't have a point. Let me make this a little bigger for you, maybe easier to see. Is that a little better for you there? Maybe a little easier to see. Now, this is week 1 we're talking about here. Obviously, we have a week 0 in college football. And, of course, Florida State and Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland is sort of the marquee game this year they're giving us for week 0. You've got 4 other games, but Florida at Georgia Tech, the only power conference versus power conference ACC game there. week 0. Thursday kicks off the week 1 slate, and Thursday's disappointing. The last few years, they've given us some pretty good games on Thursday. It seems like, didn't we have West Virginia and Penn State, or West Virginia and Pitt on a Thursday? Anyway, we don't have anything close to that here. North Carolina at Minnesota is about the best it gets for you on this opening Thursday of college football. Southeast Louisiana at Tulane. Tulane's had a couple of good years. Utah hosts Southern Utah. Kansas hosts Lindenwood. NC State hosts Western Carolina. I mean, these are all pretty boring games. Eastern Illinois and Illinois. Arkansas versus Arkansas Pine Bluff. Murray State at Missouri. Here you go. Here you go. Marquee game week 1 Thursday night. North Dakota State on the road at Colorado. North Dakota State has won a bunch of SCS championships. Now, they got no business competing with a Power 5 team, including Colorado. So what a shame it would be if they went into Boulder and beat the absolute soul and will to live out of Prime, the world's highest paid team mom. That would be unbelievable. Man, what a shame that would be if Colorado were to lose this game. I would really hate that. Friday, Duke hosts Elon. Oklahoma hosts Temple. TCU goes on the road to beat the absolute bejesus out of an ACC body bag, Stanford. Yeah, you heard me right. ACC body bag, Stanford. TCU will get the win there. But here we go. So College Game Day is going to College Station in week 1. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. Here's the rest of the games on Saturday. How many of these games, if any, would you prefer College Game Day went to instead of the Notre Dame Texas A&M game? And I'll just read the power versus power matchups here. Virginia Tech at Vanderbilt. No, I'd rather see Notre Dame Texas A&M. Let's keep going. Let's keep going and going. Penn State at West Virginia. An argument can be made for that game. Kind of an old school throwback rivalry game. Nothing like Pitt, West Virginia. But I think you can make an argument that might be a more interesting game than Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Now, the brands here are way bigger. Texas A&M and Notre Dame, the brand of Texas A&M and Notre Dame combined, much bigger than the brands of Penn State and West Virginia. But I'm not going to get into all that. But I would probably stick with Notre Dame, Texas A&M over a Penn State, West Virginia. But it is a Power 5 matchup. Continuing on down the list here, just looking for the Power 5 matchups on Saturday, week 1, so we can compare them to Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Scrolling through a lot of woozy games here. In week 1. Georgia at Clemson. Clearly, you could make a case for this one. Now, I'm going to side with Notre Dame, Texas A&M against Georgia Clemson here, and let me tell you why. I do think Georgia Clemson is probably a better matchup than Notre Dame Texas A&M. I just do. Georgia's a top 5 team anywhere you look. Notre Dame's a top 10-ish team anywhere you look. Clemson's a top 15 to top 20-ish team anywhere you look. Texas A&M is mostly unranked anywhere you look. So if you're just looking for like ranked versus ranked deals, Georgia Clemson is a bigger deal. I would actually side with ESPN here and take Texas A&M Notre Dame over this Georgia Clemson game for one simple fact. If you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you probably know what I'm about to say. Neutral site game. I can't stand neutral site games in the world of college football. I think it's ridiculous. I have this crazy idea that college football games should be played where? On college campuses, in college stadiums. This Georgia Clemson game is being played in Atlanta, an NFL stadium, Mercedes-Benz. It's one of these kickoff classic games. This is a return to favor deal from a couple of years ago when Georgia played Clemson in Charlotte in a different kickoff classic game at a neutral site. And especially with College Game Day in particular, if you've been watching College Game Day a long time, the atmosphere is not, when they go to a neutral site game, the atmosphere pales in comparison to when they go to a college campus. So I'm actually on the side of ESPN in choosing that game over Georgia versus Clemson. Here's where they screwed up. It's right here. It's the Miami, Florida game. This is the game they should probably be at. It's actually similar to the Texas A&M Notre Dame game in terms of rankings. No one's ranking Florida. They're an afterthought, same as Texas A&M. Miami is getting some buzz heading into the season, similar to Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame is higher ranked everywhere than Miami is, but this will be the most talented team Miami's had in a while. Mario Cristobal's had a couple of years to build that thing up down there. It's an in-state rivalry game that we don't get to see very often. This is a big game. More people are talking about this Miami-Florida game than are talking about the Notre Dame-Texas A&M game. That I can tell you. And this is a game that I 100% would have chosen if I ran ESPN over the Notre Dame Texas A&M game would be this Miami at Florida game. It's played on a college campus at Florida in Gainesville. It makes perfect sense. Maybe that's the problem. It makes too much sense. So that's about it. So they don't really have a ton of choices on the Saturday games in my mind. You've got Georgia Clemson. I crossed that off because it's a neutral site game. I don't like neutral site games, and I like college game day at neutral site games even less. And then it basically comes down to Notre Dame and Texas A&M or Miami and Florida. I personally would have chosen Miami and Florida. They chose Notre Dame and Texas A&M. There you go. Now, of course, because it's opening weekend, we've got games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. College game day is live on Saturday, so that's why they're choosing from this slate of games. On Sunday, we got LSU at Southern Cal. You could probably make the argument if this game was being played on Saturday, that's probably where they go. Again, I wouldn't like it. It's a neutral site game, Las Vegas, because why not have a college football game in Vegas that doesn't involve any teams from Las Vegas or Nevada? Makes perfect sense to me, right? Yep. LSU at Southern Cal. Now, this was a game we deserved to see last year. I would have loved to have seen a bowl game last year, LSU versus Southern Cal, if everybody would have played, which, of course, we know they wouldn't, too many quitters. But this game last year would have been, 90-80? Two of the best offenses and quarterbacks in all of college football. You had the two most recent Heisman winners, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. Could have had them facing off last year. There would have been 1,500 yards in this game and not a single tackle. These are two of the worst defenses on the planet Earth. We'll see what they look like this year, but that is an interesting game. I'm not knocking the game this year. This is an interesting game. Both teams starting new quarterbacks. LSU going with Nussmeier. Southern Cal, we'll see which way they end up going, but neutral site game. And then you got the Monday game, Boston College at Florida State, that absolutely not a soul cares about that game. I doubt 10 people will watch that. But there you go. So, I would have chosen a different game if I was ESPN, but they don't have a ton to choose from on that Saturday. Again, in my mind, it came down to 3 games: Georgia, Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Miami, Florida. I would have chosen Miami versus Florida. They chose Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Let me know what you think down below. And until then, have a good morning.